Anfield Wrap, sponsored by RedsBet. 50% of RedsBet's profits find their way back to support a chosen causes and initiatives. So if you want to know more about that, go to redsbet.com. I'm Gareth Roberts. Neil Atkinson is away. He's got married over the weekend, so congratulations to him and Sam. With me to talk about Liverpool and things around Liverpool, even though there's been an international break, are Jay McKenna, Salmon, Rob Gutmann and Fuad Hasan. It is a bit of a mixed bag this week with the international break, no Liverpool match to get stuck into, and lots of other Anfield Wrap shows coming up that we're getting stuck into what we've already seen and what is to come. Transfer gossip too. There's going to be loads on Tour Player this week, so don't worry about that. But all that being the case, I thought we'd use this show to talk a little bit about everything, as it were. And as we've got Jay McKenna with us, who is the chair of Spirits of Shankly, I thought we'd use the opportunity to talk about a couple of things that SOS have been involved in lately. One of which is, it was World Mental Health Day last week, and there was a film that went out called Through the Storm. Jay, you were involved in this. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, mate?
Yeah, we'd been... We as Spirit of Shankly had spoke to the club, I think, a couple of years back. One of our committee members, Joe Blott, I think, who's done something on this last week on it, he'd contacted Liverpool and said, it's World Mental Health Day, would it be good, would the club be interested in doing something? And if I'm honest, they were sort of knew a bit about it. This was pre-Tony, if I'm really honest, and, we said, could they put something in the programme? Because our view was, they have a reach, they can get to many more people, and you see Liverpool talking about it, it's a bit more normal than, the NHS talking about it. It didn't really go anywhere, and then, obviously there's the sad case of Neil Hughes and more recently Mick Woodburn, and we'd gone back to Liverpool in the meantime, after Neil, and said, is there something the club can do? And Tony was in post now, and Tony was quite aware that, this is an issue for lads in or around the match. And Joe Blotter, who's been doing work with Liverpool Mental Health Consortium, we've been supporting their events and promoting, just the idea you can talk to your mate, that you should ask your mate, are you okay, and that you can go to your mates if you're not feeling too good about yourself. And we were talking to Tony, and we were having a chat with him on Dale Street. We were just chatting, and he said, the club are looking to do a bit of a documentary. There's the story of obviously Jason McAteer and his depression that he's spoke openly about, in Chris Kirkland, and the club, the LFC TV, were looking to do a documentary with those two, talking about it from a footballer perspective. And we bumped in then to Mark Platt and Phil Reed and Paul Chilton, stuff like that from Liverpool, and they were saying, well, maybe we can involve supporters and talk about their experiences. So anyone who has watched it, and if you haven't, I certainly urge you to. So there's a Neil Hughes' dad is interviewed by Jason McAteer, and Neil's mate James Bray, some people might recognise from the match, but others will recognise he actually works in Anfield. So you'd see his face, I think he was maintenance stuff, you'd see his face inside the ground. And they talk about the experience of Neil, who killed himself, and finding him, having to go and find him, and how do you remember him? And then I was interviewed talking about stuff I'd said on mental health, but also about what we're trying to do, which is to get people talking about it. So, I think that the club really should be commended, because I think we often criticise the club when they don't use their voice particularly well. But on this, I think they've seen that, this is an issue for supporters, not because it's about what happens on the pitch, but because they have an opportunity to speak to lots of people. There was something in the programme about it. There was the programme all day, on social media on the 10th when they released it, that they know they can work with supporters to tell stories that might help someone else, and it might mean that someone else can, approach a mate, or that someone else is in a position now that if it happens to them, they can, they can help. That if a mate says to them, I'm not feeling good, they know what to do. They know that they just need to speak to them about it. Because it is, the thing for us, and one of the things we talked about in the documentary, is people go to the match, and the match is a good thing. The match, I wrote about my experience about 18 months ago, and the match was a good thing. I went to the match, and it was a distraction from lots of stuff. So you don't spot at the match that someone's not feeling themselves, but it is an opportunity. We spend lots of time there where we will be talking about whether someone's good or someone's bad, whether the manager should have done this or he should have done that. And it's an opportunity to just say to your mate, maybe people who don't see us often now, to just say, how are you? And then when they say, the inevitable thing, that, and I say lads, because it is a big problem for men, it is the biggest killer of men. you know, under 35, you know, it's the thing that's most like, you know, for all the time we worry about crossing roads safely and, you know, people drinking too much and stuff like that. This is the thing that kills you. It's yourself. You know, it's a big problem. But we don't take that time when someone says, oh, I'm sound. You know, everyone does it. You might be tired this morning, Rob, and you'll say, oh, I'm sound, you know. You're not. You're tired, but you don't talk about, you don't get into that. So is there an opportunity for us to just follow that up and just say, I haven't seen you at the match lately. Do you want a pint after the game? You know, that thing where you just like, you create a conversation where someone might just say, you know what, I'm not feeling great here. I'm just not feeling myself. And, you know, might not be that it's a mental health. It might be that work's bad. You know, why can't we have them moans? And, you know, one of the things I've picked up on this, and it's sort of alluded to in the documentary, is women don't have this problem because they do that. They do talk to each other about work and about family and stuff like that. And men, thankfully more often we are talking about it, but men don't sit around and talk about how they're feeling about something. And for some people that becomes a more significant problem. And, you know, hopefully the documentary, you know, explores some of them. It certainly is worth a watch. It's very difficult. You know, I won't lie to you. There's some moments in it which are incredibly hard to watch, even if you haven't got an experience of mental health. If you have, there'll be lots of it where I'm sure you're nodding to yourself. I was going, oh my God, that's exactly the feeling I sort of described. But, you know, there's some very hard bits to watch, but it's certainly worthwhile.
Well, it's on LFC TV, and it's also on the YouTube channel of Liverpool's YouTube channel. Ian, you going to say something?
I've not had a chance to watch it yet. I obviously saw it on World Mental Health Day being advertised. I saw the chat about it, and it's something I intend to watch because I think the vast majority of us will admit that we've had mental health issues of some kind at some point. This isn't football related, and on Thursday night, I was at play with a friend, and she was saying the same thing. I was having a conversation with her. We were talking about the fact that men don't talk about this. Women do talk when they get together. On Saturday night, I had reason to ring a mate at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was the blue, when usually neither of us are going to be up. But there was just a reason to ring him. And it was the phone call. He needed that phone call at that point. Not drastically needed the phone call, but the phone call was something that just, it was a good thing to receive at that point. So if you've got that gut instinct that you should ask your mate something, or you should ring your mate just to check in and see he's okay, just do it, because you never know the moment that's needed.
And Rob, it's good, isn't it, that, you know, obviously, you know, Liverpool Football Club, you want them to be winning football matches, buying players, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that they put resource into something like this, which is important and is important to so many people who are going the game, it's a good thing to see, isn't it?
Yeah, as Jay says, you know, we spend a lot of time bashing the club on things, but they've not been slow to react here, and we seem to be seeing that face of them more and more. I like to think it's a progressive thing, moves like putting Tony Barrett in position. You do feel they are more aware. You do feel they're not, even though the key custodians aren't there every day, they certainly put the systems in place. That's encouraging.
A few other things to mention. There's a night coming up, Friday the 2nd of November at the O2 Academy in Liverpool, called Talk Tonight, and that is a night in memory of Mick Woodburn and Neil Yos Hughes. All proceeds to Paul's Place and James Place charities. There'll be more details coming out about that soon. Another thing I wanted to mention, Jay, while you're here as well, is there's going to be a collection, isn't there, at the Cardiff City game for Sean Cox's family.
Yeah, I think anyone who's read Sean's story, certainly recently, his wife Martina gave an interview to the Irish Independent, and friends of his involved in the GAA club in Zumboyna are wanting to raise funds, and I think initially there was talk of €500,000, but up to €2 million needed for Sean after he's sort of funded to the next 12 weeks for rehabilitation. You sort of, it's on your own kind of thing, and they're looking at the best options for him. That sum of money is huge. We can't imagine it. It's not like, we'll do a raffle and you raise a couple of grand, and it's like, that doesn't make a dent. So I know the club are talking about stuff. We've had conversations with Tony, who again, this isn't the Tony Barrett's great show, but he's done brilliant stuff. Tony's really stood on for the family. I think that lots of it's on scene. The time he spent doing stuff and trying to support things, and the club are looking at things they can do. But we said, supporters will want to do something sooner rather than later. At least as a symbolic thing, but just to show Sean and his family that we're thinking about them. And Mono on our committee's been speaking to Sean's brother an awful lot there over, obviously, for the trial that's taking place at the minute. And we'd sort of said, well, let's look at, getting people at the ground, see if we can do a bit of a collection. So we're currently in the the planning phase for that, literally counting how many turnstiles there are and how many buckets we've got and stuff like that. So if anyone's listening to this, you know, keep an eye out on our social media. We'll be putting out a call for volunteers in the coming days, but mainly if you're a fundraiser or a charity and you've got spare collection buckets, that means we don't have to go and buy them and you can drop them off to us. It'd be helpful, just so that we can get them out there. And you know, I think we were thinking, you know, it's not easy, and you know, people don't have lots of spare money, but you know, if everyone turning up to that ground, you know, ahead of the Cardiff game can give £1, you know, it's a sum of money that, you know, helps Sean somewhat, but shows as family, more importantly, that we are thinking about them and it hasn't been forgotten, because you know, it's unimaginable what they're going through, and I think, you know, this will hopefully be the start of a bit of fundraising to help Sean and his family. We've
got a worldwide fan base. If everybody were to chip in the equivalent of £1, that covers it, doesn't it? You know, this, you can genuinely create something massive here, because the thing with Sean is that could have been any one of us, because I know I was nearly walking down that road at that moment. Any one of us could have turned that corner and just been in that place where Sean was.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also a GoFundMe page for those that won't be at the game, won't be able to make a donation that way. It is GoFundMe.com /support Sean Cox. As Jay says, obviously a horrendous time for Sean's family. They are trying to raise a lot of money to try and get him all the support he can need, potentially treatment abroad and things like that. So if you can help, please do. Lots of ways to do so. Obviously a collection at the Cardiff game, and that GoFundMe page, which is GoFundMe.com /support Sean Cox. All right then, so the Reds then, and the Reds more accurately on international duty. You've probably all seen that Van Dijk and Wijnaldum both scored as Holland beat Germany 3-0. But what I thought was interesting is you saw Gini's beaming face all over Instagram. He was given some kind of plate thing to mark the fact that he's reached 50 caps for his country. Firmino popped up on his Instagram as well and called him Wijnaldinho after his brilliant goal at the weekend. And I just thought it's interesting that, you know, we obviously that's a big we, but you know, lots of fans, if you like, will moan about internationals, me included. You've seen the manager slag off the Nations League as well and was calling it pointless. But it was quite clear that Gini loved that goal, loved that moment, and enjoys internationals in general. And when he finishes his career, he can say, I got 50 odd caps or 60 odd caps or whatever it is. Also an argument, I would say, that, you know, that goal maybe benefits Liverpool, and that, you know, it's a great goal, gives him some confidence, perhaps encourages the manager to play him further forward, who knows. But Fuad, start with you. In international football in general, do we need to sort of be a bit more forgiving about it, because we do, as a set of supporters, seem to moan about it quite a lot?
I mean, I haven't watched any of it this time, and I mean, I don't see the real appeal. I don't feel that kind of drive to go and watch any of the games, and you know, for the players, I think it's a pretty big thing for them, because you see a lot of them, they're all very close to each other in their international teams. You see at the tunnel in Anfield, if there's players from the same country or the opposition teams, they go, they high five, they have a little bit of a chat, and I think sometimes it can do them a bit of good, just getting away in a change of environment, change of face. And I think I saw what sticks out for me last season was Firmino. I think he was going through a little bit of a tough spell, and he went off with Brazil. I think he scored a goal. He looked a bit refreshed and came back, and he was firing again. So hopefully we can see the same sort of effects for some of our players.
Rob's Gini's goal, did you see it?
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Well done,
It's a bit like
Gerrard against Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, it is like that. Well, from the first couple of angles I saw it, and then I saw another angle which was from higher up, and you just go, that German defence isn't there. I thought, does he drop a shoulder? Does he swerve out? He just goes diagonal. Those German defenders, I am diminishing. They go, no, it's a brilliant goal. It's a great goal, and do you know what's strange, because it's a sort of a bittersweet moment, because you think, and can you do that for us a bit more, Gini?
Yeah.
And and again, that sounds a bit peevish because he's playing as a defensive midfielder these days. But last season, I think the criticism you'd have him in his Liverpool career, and I think Klopp has said it to him, just score some more goals, please.
Yeah.
Because he's got it in his locker. He's technically a good footballer all round. He scored quite a few. He scored 11, is it, for Newcastle that season before we buy him?
11 and 40, yeah. I've got a stat here. He's got 9 goals for Liverpool in 102 appearances. 6 in his first season, 2 in the last one this. He's got 9 for Holland in 51. He got 56 in 154 for PSV and 25 in 135 for Feyenoord.
So his problem, I suppose, if it is a problem, it's not a problem, it's an asset. He's a very versatile footballer, isn't he? And we're playing him defensively now, but he's done that.
Even as centre half.
Yeah, well, actually, you're right, yeah, in the 3 at Brighton last year. But he played in the holding role, I think, under Van Gaal for Holland years ago. So he's no stranger to that. And then being that sort of the number 8 or the midfielder who's breaking the lines, he sort of got it all. But I think the main thing that's encouraged me this season is I think whatever position you put him in, his level's gone up this year.
Yeah.
It really has. He's on balance out of Henderson, Milner, Keita and him. He's just about the pick for me, I would say. And they've all done okay to varying degrees, but he's been the pick of them. And as you say, in an international sense, getting that goal, getting that milestone, enjoying his week away. The fact the goals against Germany is a big deal. I think that's half the problem, actually. If I digress on international football, is so much of it is against shit. It's really hard to get up for some of those games. If it was all sort of face-offs between the star players and there's a bit more FIFA, I think you could get the younger generation into it. But it's hard work.
Well, the Van Dijk thing's interesting, isn't it? Because he's ended up that there's still concerns about his rib injury, but it seems to be that he actually wanted to play against Germany, if the reports are to be believed, and then less so against Belgium. So he plays against Germany, scores a goal, and then he's come back. It still seems a bit of a grey area about who decides who plays when. Is it our doctors? Is it their doctors? Is it the player? Is it the manager? And it's a bit weird, isn't it?
I think the smart modern club manager and the smart modern international manager make sure they have the dialogue, so that isn't even a thing. You get the impression Klopp's that sort of guy. Whether it always works, some international managers are going to put up blocks, aren't they? They're going to go, nope, he's our player. When he's our player, I'm not being made to think about your concerns. But you look about the Van Dijk injury and the Salah one, and I think there's been a few City players who seem to be out the second games, and you do suspect the hand of collusion, sensible collusion between international managers and club managers going, okay, you have him, but it's in your. But Klopp would be within his right to say to Van Dijk's international managers, Koeman, and to Salah's manager at Egypt level is, you can play him into the ground, but if we all do that, he's not going to be available for the next international break. We've got to work with each other. Klopp will be able to say, look, I'm going to rest him. I'm not going to play him the next 6 games on the bounce. Can you help out?
Just to go back to what Rob said, Ian, about the midfield and about seeing Gini score that type of goal, really. Liverpool's top 3 goal scorers last season outside of the front 3 were Coutinho, Chan and Oxlade-Chamberlain. Obviously, 2 of those definitely not going to play for Liverpool again. The other one probably not going to play this season. It seems a little bit cheerless to discuss it, but we are where we are at international break. But Liverpool are joint top of the league, and yet there is a little underlying concern about the midfield. I mean, you look at the fact that I've just said, but also the fact that there's only been 3 goals from midfield this season so far. 2 of those are penalties from Milner. Do we need more from someone, and can that be Gini? Can there be a tweak where he's further forward?
Well, our midfield aren't scoring, our front 3 aren't firing, but somehow we're joint top of the league and we're pushing on November. I think Gini's given himself a little bit of an issue as a player because, again, he has, as Rob said, he's proved to be so versatile for us. Because we buy him as basically, we expect him to be a 10, we expect him to be that attacking midfielder. And at his best, I was quite shocked by his stats because at his best, he's a 1 in 3 scorer. And we're not seeing that because for us, he's a 1 in 10. So I think there's clearly... That goal the other night proves he's got the ability to score. I didn't see the angle where the defence disappeared altogether, so I was just taking it as a wonder goal. I'm going to count it as a wonder goal until I see the other angle.
It is a good goal.
It is. It's a cracking goal, and it shows the potential he's got to score. So what you could be seeing is we know that we're still embedding Fabinho in the Liverpool way. We're dealing with Fabinho, dealing with Keita in the way we dealt with Chamberlain and Robertson, and they're getting into what Klopp actually wants over the first third of the season. What you could see post-Christmas is Fabinho as securing that holding role and Wijnaldum playing further forward. You can see Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum as a more dynamic midfield because we've been lacking that bit of dynamism. Somebody breaking the lines in that way, he could take on what Chamberlain was doing last year, and he's clearly got the ability to do it. I think he's presented that issue being like where we are at the moment. If you take on the 6, then we're going to be safe. We know you're going to do the job there. Get Fabinho good enough to play, you could see Wijnaldum playing far, far further forward. And it does just give us another option. And the fact that we can create options in midfield, I've just given you a midfield 3, not even counting our most expensive midfielder. I'm not even thinking of Keita at that point. You could be looking at Keita, Fabinho, Wijnaldum. That could be your first choice 3.
Also coming back is Adam Lallana.
Lallana's coming back as well.
He was the guy who got a few goals. We didn't score a lot from centre mid last season.
Not huge.
If you look at it over the, Coutinho's 11 or 12 in all comps. 2/3 of those are played as scored probably, I'm just guessing, as a front three player. So to even count them as midfield goals.
And those 11 that are in 3 months.
Yeah. So even if you look at the average throughout the season, we're not getting a hell of a lot of goals. I mean, our front three just score a ridiculous amount of goals this season.
I don't think it's just about the goals. So I think last season, Oxlade-Chamberlain, central defenders have to worry about him. That if he turns their midfield as he likes to do, hitting drives at them, they've got to worry about him. So they've got to come out. And I was watching on Saturday night that Sky had Salah's goals, and I was watching. I was thinking teams just don't play that same way against us now. They sit. Even City, West Ham done it. They just sit. They wait. They restrict that space. But if you have a midfielder in or around the box that maybe have a shot, it, you know, like Coutinho used to, it adds something else. You pick a goal up from somewhere else, and then teams have got to come out and try and play against you because we've gone 1-0 up and we find space. Then that's what we were doing when we were blitzing teams. We'd score and then we'd blitz them because then they had to come out and play. They wanted to get a goal. They were a bit all over the place. When Wijnaldum in our midfield, it might be an option for them. I know the Echo picked something up they were talking this week about Lallana coming back, saying maybe that helps Keita, that, you know, we can play a bit more withdrawn and Lallana will be that, you know, furthest forward midfielder. But in the games we've played so far, we haven't had a player do what Wijnaldum done, where he runs past the front three, whether with the ball or without it. And that's meant that Firmino and that have dropped off. So, you know, it's good to see them doing it. It might give them a bit of confidence. It might, you know, brings players back happy. You know, you speak to players, it comes to the international football question, you speak to players, they love being involved in the business end of competitions because they just love playing football. They don't want to train. They don't need to worry about set pieces. I know we need to coach players and systems and stuff like that, but I reckon if you said to them, like, we're going to coach you on how to play against Man City, or we're going to just let you go and play, you know, Wednesday, Saturday, I reckon they just say, go ahead, we'll play Wednesday, Saturday. Not bothered about being coached because they think they're good enough, and probably by and large they are. They're at the elite level, and I think that comes to why they like playing international football. These lads have grown up. You know, if you played footy in school, you know, you played for your school team, that was a thing. But then you probably wanted to play for Sefton or Merseyside because you wanted to be the best. You wanted to, you know, if you played in the league, you know, there was a prestige of playing for the reps team that, you know, was across all teams against other leagues. International football's no different than that. These lads have grown up in their academy. They don't want to be the best in their academy team. They want to be the best in their country. So they probably, you know, they've spent years, lots of them, going to play for the under-15s and 16s and 17s and 21s for the Netherlands. They probably like it as a chance to catch up with their mates, but there's still a thing about being the best. You know, these players, I hope no Liverpool player, you know, never wants to be the best. And I think sign of having such a good squad that so many of them are internationals and are starters for the internationals. Look at even James Milner, you know, the conversation prior to this international break was whether Milner would ever come out of international time, whether Gareth Southgate had asked him. How good's that even our retired players who haven't played for England for a number of years are playing that good that they should be international footballers. You know, I want all Liverpool players to be international footballers because it means we've signed the best players we can possibly sign. So, you know, I think we just have to take the rough with this move on that in terms of international football.
Yeah, someone else in this sort of midfield conversation, I just wanted to get into this a little bit, was people have been saying that maybe Shaqiri can be there, maybe he can be the man who sort of breaks the lines, carries the ball and all the rest of it. There's this constant sort of shit staring around him, I think, where they're trying to make out that there's a problem there when he hasn't done anything to suggest he's a problem whatsoever. So clearly someone's asked him this question again over the weekend, and he says, you don't have to keep me happy. The process has worked well for me so far, and sure, every professional wants to play, I do too, but there's still a lot of games to come, and on top of that, you need to look and acknowledge what has been done at Liverpool recently. A lot of people did a good job. That's why Everton hasn't been turned upside down overnight. What has happened is exactly what I expected. I decided to move to Liverpool fully aware that I would have a harder time in a club of this standing than, for example, other clubs that tried to help me. I presume by help me means tried to sign him. But he could have gone and been the sort of the big fish in a smaller pond, and he's chosen to come to Liverpool. Seems happy with his lot. That's what he's saying there. But do you see him, Fuad, getting a go in this run that's coming up? Because it's sort of... it's a bit of an opportunity where if he's maybe a bit more of a flat track bully, well, he's got an opportunity to start bullying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Klopp's telling any players any lies when he signs them, and you know, he's known and built his reputation on being open and honest. And I think Shaqiri would have known from the beginning of their transfer negotiations that he's not just going to come in and walk into this team and be given sort of free rein. And you know, this sort of tough run of fixtures, I think Klopp wanted to minimise the risk in terms of trying out different things, playing these different players and betting them in. But this game, these run of games we got coming up now after the break, I think is perfect for him. And Huddersfield away, I'd be looking to getting him in that midfield. And I think he does have that drive and that ability to beat a man. And as Jay was saying earlier, cause that problem for centre halves. And I think you saw that towards the end of last season with Oxlade-Chamberlain, there was that little bit of a relationship built with Salah, and that he was finding him with passes, gave him that extra yard of space by pulling away a defender. And if we could bring that back, it might just give him that little bit more freedom, because you can't kind of contain all of them if everyone's sort of out there firing.
And yeah, it's 4 appearances for Liverpool so far for Shaqiri, but he started only 2 games, and then obviously there's the one everyone's still talking about where he's hooked at half time after hitting the bar with that amazing free kick. But again, there isn't a problem with him, is there?
No, it's 2 starts in the last 5, so having had none in the first 7 roughly. So he's seeing progress, and I think he's looking at this. If Salah, Mane and Firmino hardly get any resting in that run of 7, then we rewind 6 weeks, we go on to how the rotation is going to work over the 7 games. We saw very little resting of the front 3. I think this run of fixtures, which isn't quite as testing on paper, is not the Tottenham, City and Chelsea fixtures. Arsenal's the tough one in the next few. I think there's more of a case for Shaqiri starts. And he'll be encouraged. I think Klopp will have encouraged him before he signed that you're not just cover for the front 3, you're covering midfield. So there's options there. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain was told the same thing. They can all do the maths. It's not like you cover for the front 3 and we've already got 6 there to do that, like at City. You come in there, you'll cover for cover. So for us, you go, well, literally just there's only one place in front of you all the way through. So yeah, he's got every reason to be encouraged. You also do wonder. Just a final thing on this is, he's now been through 2 experiences, or 3 sets of experiences, I think, in the last few years of his career. He was at Bayern, where he's a bench player, does cameos. He's at Inter, which is a league he doesn't like, and he's at Stoke, where he gets all the starts he wants, but they're shit. Yeah. And you sort of think he must be thinking.
And then he's the man, though, for Switzerland as well.
Yeah, he's probably thinking back on balance. Maybe Liverpool represents a little bit of all of this, and I've still got my Switzerland to keep me happy. And as we said before, in the days it was coming up to the speculation on us signing him, he's a lad who'll back himself. And I think we're seeing the same sort of attitude with Sturridge as well.
I think there's also a case to be made that in this run you see Shaqiri start with Sturridge, because we saw them in pre-season where they're clearly building up a little bit of an understanding between each other on how each other plays. So I think there's a case for the easier games in this run to see the 2 of them combine again and see what they can do, because they then become an option later in the season. He does seem like a lad who seems very, very balanced. He seems to have a good attitude to him. All the talk before him was he's going to be a trouble causer. He's going to be... No, he seems like a player who's somewhere that he wants to be. It's probably the highest level he's going to get to. He's had big moves before. It's not come off for him. He's not going to get a big move from us to elsewhere now. This is probably going to be the highlight of his career in the next 3-4 years. He's got a chance to possibly win things with us. He's got a chance to feature and be part of that squad. And we know that, as Rob was saying, we expected rotation through those first 7 games, and we got absolutely none of it, basically. Now, the next 7 you would expect, if not rotation, possibly these are the first 11 I'm going to start with each game. And then we'll bring in, maybe Salah gets a fortnight off now. Maybe, the fact he's still wearing strapping on his shoulder, and it could be something to do with the fact he's not been firing so far. Maybe he needs that little bit of a rest. So this could be a good run, Huddersfield, Cardiff, Belgrade, and then obviously when we hit Arsenal, then you wheel out the big guns again. So it could be vital for the next 4 games.
Lallana's been mentioned briefly, but Henderson's been talking about him, saying what a big miss he's been, that he's a big talent, that not so long ago he was England's Player of the Year. Obviously, there's the issue, Jay, around his injury record. He only played 15 times for Liverpool last season. He's 30 now as well. But then at the same time, on that video where Milner's running around and proving himself to be the fittest player at the club, it's actually Lallana who's second on that very same test. So there is something there. We know Henderson's his mate. How do you feel about his return, and do you see him making a contribution in that run that Ian mentioned? So Huddersfield, Cardiff, Belgrade.
I'd forgot about him, to be honest, until the article that was mentioned at the thing. And I was thinking, we missed Chamberlain. Keita I'd hoped would have done it, but hasn't quite hit the ground running on that in that respect. And again, as I say, I was watching the Salah thing, and then I read the Salah, golden goal stuff, and then I see the Lallana story, and I think, well, maybe that is it. Maybe it is to try something, because I do feel like Liverpool are in a bit of a phase where teams, I always thought this of Leicester. I didn't get how teams couldn't, after 3 or 4 games, figure out how to play against Leicester. You scout them so much. How haven't you learned that they're going to try and go in behind Vardy and stuff like that? But it's just that their execution of it was so good, and I think Liverpool's execution of something was so good last year that we're in a phase now where we're still trying to execute that, and it's just not coming off. So we've got to try and figure out maybe a bit of a different way to play sometimes, or to get the best out of them. And it might be a Lallana. It might be that, we don't need him, short and sharp and passing and crossing and stuff like that, but we just need that little ball in behind. That player, just flicks it through to Sturridge if Sturridge is playing. Maybe, and I think that's why people are calling for Shaqiri. I think that they're thinking we need that player that stops Firmino having to drop deep to pick the ball up, to play a little pass off. That Lallana can look to do that. My fear with Lallana, though, is just that his age, when he came back last season and played, he just didn't look, he just looked weak. Even his shooting and stuff like that, I just didn't sense that there was a strength from him. I don't know what his game strengths are now. I don't know what, is his passing, his run, what does he offer? Whereas with Chamberlain, it's that he turns, he can drive with the ball, he's got a good cross on him, but he can shoot as well. He can hit a ball. Coutinho's was, he can have a pass, little passes, shot from outside the box. There was clear identifiable strengths, and with Lallana, I'm not sure what it is, but we are in a stage where I think we have to try and figure it out, and the next run of games might give us the opportunity to do that. Because I, like Ian's mentioned there, I'm pleased with the idea that, we're top of the league, and I know we're not playing very well, but you can only get away with that for so long. There will come at a point where you're like, we've seen it previously with Liverpool teams, and any good team, you're not playing very well, and then you don't get the result, and you lose a few, and we don't want to lose that momentum. So, maybe it is, you bring Lallana in, he gets a half, you see whether there's something there to offer, whether it just works. Shaqiri, the sub for Salah a couple of times, has worked, because he just offers something different. It gives the other team something different to think about. And it might be a rocker up, the backside of a Salah or a Mane and something like that. So, I'd like to see us try that, and give the lads a chance to play into form, but maybe change the midfield to see if we can offer them something else. But, you'd expect, even if we do make that change and Lallana doesn't come in very well there, you'd expect us to have enough to beat a Belgrade, or other teams that we've got coming up. So it might be a nice opportunity for them to say, well, go ahead, I'm going to prove myself. It's not the most testing run,
no,
so that I can come in and maybe prove myself, and if I can get an assist and a goal, then maybe
and get a bit of rhythm.
Yeah, well, maybe Lallana then is thinks, this is the bit about signing players, isn't it? Is it brings you up a level. Gini Wijnaldum's turned up this year because he knew players were going to come in.
Yeah.
I thought Wijnaldum has been really good for us since the derby last year when he played, and he was playing as the last man, in midfield, and he was literally trusting himself to ride the challenge and turn around all the time. And I think, is Shaqiri now just, putting a bit of pressure on others to say, well, I'm the first sub, I'm first change. Well, can Lallana come in and say to Shaqiri, nah, I'm first change? And then suddenly Mane and Salah or someone else is thinking, well, we could be first sub here, and I'm not being first sub every week. So they step up a bit, and you get a bit more out of Shaqiri, that he becomes a starter, because suddenly Lallana's first sub, and he's got that option off the bench. So it could be a good thing for the team where they're like, no, we've all not been at our best, apart from a couple of the midfielders like Milner and Wijnaldum and that. Now it's time to turn it on. Now it's time to be that thing. And Henderson, does it say to Henderson, well, because I think part of the problem in our midfield with Wijnaldum, Milner and Henderson, the way they play for Liverpool anyway, is that they're all a bit similar. Yeah. They're all a bit industrious. Yeah. They're all a bit take the ball off someone else and give it to someone else. And is it saying to them, well, now now you've got to step up, because now we've got these lads who can create back a bit. Wijnaldum's playing well, all Lallana's back, and Shaqiri's chomping at the bit. Listen, I'm going to play these in midfield. And suddenly it's like, well, I've got to offer a bit more now. I've got to be a bit on my game a bit more and creating chances, because I don't feel like we're getting, I don't know what the stats, but it just feels like watching it, they're a bit sameish, They're not breaking the line, they're not offering something different.
I think if you look at the fixtures we've had, Klopp throughout his Liverpool time, and I think Rodgers did this to an extent, they had two modes. They basically would and Klopp especially, they play with 4 attacking players. So we have focused on the front 3, but for many games last season, there was also Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as a fourth attacking player. Was this season we've had 3 attacking players and 3, not defensive, but 3, as you say, industrious players. And that's suited because if you think the games of that last 7, we had PSG, Napoli, Spurs, City, Chelsea twice. And even before those tougher games, you're away at Palace, you're away at Leicester. You can't afford 2 in midfield. You're going to get overrun. So I think there's a degree to which I think we think Liverpool have looked solid and blunter. Well, it's because Klopp's wanted us to be solid and blunter, because otherwise there's a danger you concede more goals. And I think we've just worked off that base. What's interesting now, this phase last season, we had Coutinho back in the fold. And so we went with the front 4, with him behind the front 3, and we were facing these kind of fixtures. Huddersfield came along almost exactly this time. We haven't got Coutinho now, but we do have Shaqiri, we do have Lallana. Keita, I think, still got more to come. More. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see there. I think we'll see, I suppose what I'm struggling to say, but I'm labouring to say is, I think we'll see a bit less of Wijnaldum, Milner, Henderson. And we'll see a bit more of 2 out of those 3 plus another.
I think there's a horses for courses things as well, because I think the Henderson, Wijnaldum, Milner, when we played PSG at home, we've only played them at home obviously, the 3 that we played wasn't the usual a 1 and a 2 pivots. It was a flat line of 3. So they were there to defend. They were there to make sure that we kept hold of the ball and that we weren't going to lose out anywhere. I thought they were magnificent that night, as the whole team was. I think on the Lallana front, I think what Lallana can give to us is what he's always given to us. He's got fantastic feet. He's brilliant at retaining the ball high up the pitch, and always has been. We're not going to need him to be the first trigger on the press anymore, because in Klopp's first season, that was his role. He was the trigger for the first press. And we're not pressing as vigorously as we were then. We're more about control this season. So I don't think we need that from him. So we're not going to need the dynamism. But he's still got the ability. Same as Sturridge. The one thing that we all know of Sturridge is his feet are fantastic. Lallana's got that as well. So in terms of retention, he could be great for a European away, where you want to keep the ball, and you want to keep the ball high up. Red Star Belgrade away, we should be going out there to destroy them. Obviously, that's what we'd want. But if you think it's going to be a bit tricky, you're keeping the ball. Maybe against Napoli, Lallana high up the pitch might have been that safer option.
Well, this run that is coming up, we keep talking about that. It looks a little bit easier. Just to offer a bit of detail on that, Huddersfield away Saturday, they're 3rd bottom, no wins, only scored 4 in 8 games, and they've conceded 17. Red Star, the following Wednesday, obviously PSG beat them 6-1. And we beat PSG. That's like the thing you used to do in school.
We're the best ever. We'd win the French league, us.
Are we legally allowed to talk about the PSG versus Red Star game at the moment?
I don't know. Don't get into that. Cardiff City home a week on Saturday as well. They're bottom, no wins, scored 4 and conceded 17. So there's never a good time to get injuries, obviously, but over the weekend we've seen Mo Salah substituted in the 88th minute, scores from a corner, but then he's off with this, what was described as a muscle strain but not rupture. And then this assistant coach talking about him needing radiation to determine the injury. I think that means an X-ray, doesn't it?
Turn into a superhero.
Okay, bit mad. Obviously Van Dijk as well, like we mentioned earlier, returning with this rib problem that we knew he had anyway. Milner likely out. So either way, whatever we think about all those things we've just discussed, there's likely going to be changes, but is it almost not the worst time for there to be changes?
No, I think it's perfect in a sense, because you got these players like Sturridge and Shaqiri, especially Sturridge, I think, who's really been kind of making a case for himself, and you see how Klopp's been talking about him being in his moment and really firing, and he's had this 2 weeks off where he's hopefully maintained that form and on the training pitch, and it would just be, I think it's important to have players that you can kind of phase in and phase out throughout the season. I think you saw that with Milner last season coming in towards the end, and I think you probably see Milner phasing out, I think, in this run of games, and I think the first sort of patch was all about kind of maintaining a bit of a solid foundation to build on, and then hopefully we'll see our real kind of attacking, free-flowing football this time. And Shaqiri, I really do think he can be a really big part of that, just because he does provide that fourth option in attack, and if Salah maybe just needs a little bit of time to get fully fit, as Ian said earlier about his shoulder and all these little niggles, you just feel like there's been a lot on his sort of plate over the last few months with the World Cup and his whole thing with Egypt and everything like that. So maybe it might just do him a bit of good, just kind of getting out, sorting himself out fully and getting back on the pitch kind of fully fit without anything kind of lingering over him. So yeah, I think it probably has come at a good time, especially with the run of games, but also because we've got players who are really kind of chomping at the bit to get out there.
Rob, even
no, he's playing tomorrow. Tonight, is it?
Tonight.
He didn't play the other night, though.
He didn't play the other night, but he's due to play tonight.
So we don't mention Joe. I mean, Joe's.
I mean, yeah, we've had a really sensible conversation about international football, but yeah, don't get injured tonight, Joe.
Yeah,
please.
just don't. And also, Gomez, I wouldn't say he's an injury-prone player, aside from that one terrible injury he had. But, you know, he's not a lad who will give you 38 games, I don't think. That's not been his history. He will pick up a niggle here and then. So I don't think Klopp will want to play him absolutely every week. So you look at Huddersfield and Cardiff and Red Star and you think you don't want to see Gomez and Van Dijk playing every minute of all three of them.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy seeing Gomez alongside Lovren. I'd prefer not to see Lovren and Matip together. But you would imagine if you're going to have them together at any point. Huddersfield and Cardiff.
Anyone down the other week.
No, he didn't. He didn't do badly at all. He's done nothing wrong. Neither has actually done anything greatly wrong when we've seen them this season. So if you have to play the two of them, now would be a good time to play the two of them. But I think Gomez, when Gomez came on for Van Dijk, I can't remember what game it was in now. He came on as a sub for Van Dijk and played alongside Matip, but dropped right into the Van Dijk role and played on the left instead of the right. And he was magnificent that night. I can't remember what game it was for the life of me. Was it Southampton? But he was magnificent. He came on and he had the authority that Van Dijk has. The lad carries natural authority with him. So if it's Van Dijk or Gomez plus one of the others in the run of the next 4 games, that's absolutely fine. I think our first choice centre-back partnership, obviously, is Van Dijk and Gomez. So you'd want to see them for Arsenal, you'd want to see them for Everton. But the rest of the run, there's rotation possible there. As you said, Gomez had a problematic season last season with injury. But it was the one big injury that caused him. Then he was playing with the remnants of that injury towards the end of the season. So as he grows through his career, we've got to think he is still only 21. He could get, at 19, Gerrard was still injury prone, wasn't he? He wasn't getting full seasons in. So by the time he's 21, I think he's actually hitting it. But as he grows older in his career, you'll get more full seasons out of him.
Well, there will be more on what teams Liverpool are likely to face, what teams they might put on the pitch themselves, what we should expect approach-wise. There's going to be loads of shows this week getting into all of that. The video preview show of Huddersfield to come too, and the Daily Talk and Red stuff as well. Loads and loads of Anfield Wrap content this week. I think we've done well to shimmy around all of that and give those people who are hosting those shows an opportunity to talk about something. But yeah, so get on to all of those. This has been the free Anfield Wrap show, sponsored by RedsBet. Do check them out. Thanks to everyone for today, and thanks for Andy for producing. That has been the Anfield Wrap.